is an auteur? Well, there are many people who fall under that category. Hitchcock, Haneke, Kiarostami. But the one that we're looking at today is the one we've been studying the most profusely, the Dardenne brothers, Jean-Pierre and Luc. Jean-Pierre and Luc's the original films were documentaries, and they kept that style into their featured films as well. One of the things that is constantly seen in a lot of their films is the use of the same actors in multiple movies, preferably the two main actors of Ovalar Gourmand and Jeremiah Ranieri, both featured in two prominent films of theirs, The Promise and The Child. Many people would claim that using the same actor over and over again can establish a pattern. The use of the same actors in their film establish a certain style, because as the films are made, we see them grow as both characters and as actors, starting from Olivier's more Weasley Roger in The Promise to a somber father who's missing the death of his child in The Son, as we also seen the growth of Jeremiah Renner from being that innocent young-eyed youth Igor to who he was in The Son himself as a young ne'er-do-well. This also raises another thing that makes the Dardennes stand out as an auteur: the use of family and young kids. While in many films it seems like people like Roger and Igor symbolize this to the most extreme aspect of it by showing the various ways that they're related, we actually get other films that showcase that no, it's not just paternal relationships, but also the family we make as we grow as people. It's symbolized in Rosetta. Rosetta struggling to deal with her own personal life and the way that her mother treats her. And instead, she finds solace in the people she works around in both the shop, in her job, and the plans that she tries to make as a functioning adult. Throughout most of their films, there's a theme of paternity and know how a lot of the characters are longing for a good paternal figure to help as they navigate their various courses in life. The way the Dardennes show these characters as people who are struggling to find redemption through life, it brings up the question that hits at the heart of their films. Are they having a hard time navigating life due to their circumstances? Or was it because there wasn't anyone there to help guide them as a paternal figure? And these other reactions that we see in these films also translates to other things that the Dardennes use to symbolize the realness of life. There's no sound or dialectic noise to happen in the background. It's primarily the only noise we hear is from the dialect of the main leads. There's never any music. There's never any real distraction. But that lack of sound really shows viewers to focus on what is happening in each scene. As much like a documentary where it's no distracting matter, we focus primarily on the people we're watching and their life struggles as they have to get through stuff like finding work, how to handle the loss of a loved one, or in the sense of The Promise, how do you do the right thing when you're really told that you shouldn't because it might hurt someone that you've been so familiar with? And that also translates to another aspect of these characters that we get from the Dardenne films. We feel as if we're watching a real life aspect of them. In most of the Dardenne films, there's a scene that the viewers are just following the main characters in their films. Some examples we can see are at the end of The Promise, as we see Igor and the woman he's been helping throughout this film just walk down a hallway. But that somber feeling remains as we see the loss that Igor's been going through. Others, such as the end of The Son, where Overlair's character and Jeremy Renner's character are fighting to an almost uncertain end at a wood yard. But because of this style technique where viewers are always with the main character, viewers really get into the insight into what and how the characters are feeling in these films. This is a feeling that I don't think a lot of our tours actually have anymore. And that leads to two major elements that we have in the Dardenne films: their endings and the feeling of redemption. Now, I want to talk about redemption first, as it's the bigger element of their film. Throughout most of the films that we've seen this semester, Rosetta, The Promise, and The Son, there's a sense of redemption after life has wronged you. And we need to have that sense shown because these characters, they're not Hollywood main characters. There's not automatically something we attach to or we sympathize with. They're just human beings. And to see their relationship and their redemption through life is something that I think a lot of people don't understand and we need to have. For example, Igor shows redemption for himself after he helps 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 the person who lost their husbands find a new life and escape the wrath of Roger, who probably wants to kill her because he's afraid that he'll be sent to jail and has become Weasley. But how these films end is they're just endings. In Rosetta, the film ends after Rosetta's probably going to try to kill herself, but she's picked back up and is shown crying as someone is shown reaching a hand in sympathy towards her. In The Sun, Olivar's character tries to kill Jean Germain's character, but he just lets him go in the end. They both just leave as if nothing happened. So to answer the end of the question, what makes an auteur? I think that it's because of the Dardennes' unique background. Growing up in Belgium around the time of the Cold War, fearing an end of everything that they known, and to grow up in that sense of what the life is, that gives him that gave him that fly on the wall perspective. We understand that these films are a cross between what a documentary and a feature film is, and I think that alone is what a lot of their films feel as though they're documentaries, but they're real life fictional documentaries that showcase that these people aren't acting, they're living. And I think that's what makes the Dardennes an auteur, the sense of living that they give their characters.